Have you ever thought about it, that in one moment your life will never be the same? That everything can change in one day, or one night, or one moment. That's what happened in my life. Are you sure you want to do this? I asked my best friend Ellie, who was putting the finishing touches on my evening hairdo. Absolutely. You need to relax, Ava. New job, new acquaintances, and who knows, maybe you'll meet someone who will turn your life upside down. Ellie was always bolder than me. She preferred noisy parties, acquaintances, and bright dresses, and I preferred books, cozy coffee shops, and endless thoughts about the meaning of life. And so, welcome to my first party in my life. I don't know, Ellie. I begin hesitantly, but my best friend doesn't let me finish. No, Ava, don't even think about making excuses. She interrupts passionately, calling the bartender over and handing him a 20. I watch her hold up 4 fingers, then confidently order something I'm afraid to even ask about. You didn't ask for the day off, trust me, Ellie says, flashing a winning smile. While she was busy, I looked around. The club was like something out of a bohemian movie, dark walls, flashing lights over the dance floor, speakers piercing my chest, and the faint smell of stale beer mixed with the scent of cheap perfume. The space was filled with people, making the air seem thicker. My gaze lingered on the stage filled with musical instruments when Ellie nudged my shoulder. Here, have this, she said enthusiastically, handing me a shot of something unimaginably green. What is this, goo? I won over the thick liquid. It's a party in a glass, trust me. Just drink it, Ellie insisted. Taking a deep breath, I hesitantly raised the glass to my lips. The first impression was deceiving. The drink, oddly enough, tasted like sweet key lime pie. Ellie smiled proudly. See? I told you so. Now have another drink, don't be shy. We start with cocktails that Ellie smirks and calls girly, and quickly immerse ourselves in the noisy atmosphere. We need to find a table closer to the stage, Ellie decides. There's a band playing tonight, they're said to be amazing. You didn't say anything about live music, I point out, feeling myself getting sucked into her gamble again. So what? You know how cool it is here. Different bands every week. Some are big, some are new. But everyone says the bands playing tonight are amazing. Ellie pulls a flyer out of her small bag and hands it to me. The cover features 4 guys who look like they've been ripped out of a 90s music video, looking out of their photos with a "We're the Kings of the World" expression. Their band name, Extraordinary Lights, is written in bold letters all over the place. This one's a cutie, I say, pointing to a guy with tousled dark hair, brown eyes, and a light stubble. Cute? He's hot. Ally nods approvingly. Wow, Ava, I didn't know you had that kind of taste. You usually like things a little more subtle. Come on, Ally. Besides, why would I care about guys who probably don't even remember what city they're playing in? Ally chuckles, but her plan for the evening is already clear. The stage lights brighten, the music fades into the background, and the crowd's attention is focused on 4 figures emerging from the wings. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the Extraordinary Lights. The DJ yells, and the crowd erupts in applause. I find the guy from the photo. He takes his place at the microphone, adjusts his guitar strap, and from the first few chords it's clear that this is his element. He's even better live, I say, and Ellie smiles widely at that. Here, look. Don't you want to talk to him after the show? Are you kidding? Ellie, he's clearly older than me. He's probably in his early 20s. So what? That's even better. A mature man. Ellie, I'm 18. So what? It's legal. What if it's destiny? I shake my head, trying to hide my smile. Ellie exudes confidence as always, but I doubt any of these guys, surrounded by fans, will even notice us. The show ends with a loud ovation, and the crowd begins to disperse. Ellie pulls me closer to the stage, confidently maneuvering through the crowd. Ellie, we can't just walk up to her. Ava, trust me, I've thought of everything. You don't want to miss this opportunity, do you? While I was collecting my thoughts, one of the musicians came out into the audience to mingle with the fans. My friend nudged me forward, and I found myself dangerously close to the Abbey guitarist I'd just been watching with interest on stage. "Hi," he says suddenly, smiling. Hi," I reply, feeling the color creep up my cheeks. Ellie winks happily at me from afar, leaving us alone. The night that changed everything. His smile was disconcerting, warm and a little mischievous, as if he already knew I was uncomfortable. "You seem to really like our music," he says, gesturing to adjust the strap of his guitar on his shoulder. "Yeah, you sound amazing," I say, trying to sound more confident than I feel. "I'm glad to hear that." "I'm Jake," he holds out his hand, and I shake it, a little hesitantly. "Ava," I say, feeling the light touch of his palm create a strange, but pleasant feeling of warmth. "Is this your first time here? Or did we perform and you just silently ignored us?" He laughs, tilting his head slightly. "You first time," I say, surprised at how easy it is to talk to him. At that moment, Ellie appears next to me, her eyes shining with delight. "Hi. I'm Ellie, Ava's best friend," she smiles, as if she set us up. "Nice to meet you, Ellie," Jake nods politely, though his attention is clearly on me. "You guys were incredible," Ellie continues, giving me time to collect my thoughts. I catch her grateful look. "Don't waste this moment. So what brings you here?" Jake asks, turning the conversation back to me. "My friend insisted," I admit honestly, casting a playful glance at Ellie. "So I should thank her," his gaze softens slightly. "You're a little shy, huh? I wouldn't say you're the type to easily agree to come to a loud club. And you're observant," I smirk. "Professional deformation," he replies, nodding toward the stage. "On stage, you need to see every reaction from the audience." His words sound casual, but I sense more in them. Like he's really trying to figure out who I am. At some point, I notice that the rest of the band has started to gather nearby. Jake glances at them, but doesn't hurry to leave. "You know, after a night like this, we usually go out for dinner. Would you and your friend like to join us?" I look at him, stunned. Ellie practically jumps. "We? Of course. We." She blurts out before I can say anything. Jake smirks. "Great. Then how about we meet at the exit in 10 minutes? We agree, and he leaves to join his band. "Ellie, are you serious? We don't even know them." I whisper to my friend as Jake leaves. "Come on, Ava. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity." She's right, but I'm still hesitant. My heart is pounding so loudly, I'm afraid they'll hear it. Jake turns out to be a gentleman. Despite all the trappings of a rock star, he's calm and respectful, asking questions about my interests and listening intently. On the way, Ellie strikes up a conversation with another band member, leaving Jake and me in our own little universe. "You know, you're not like the people who usually come to our shows," he says, looking me in the eye. "Is that a bad thing?" I ask, sensing a slight challenge in his words. "On the contrary. It makes you interesting." His words make me smile, and for the first time all evening I begin to feel comfortable. This evening becomes the beginning of something that changes my life. Jake and I continue to communicate despite his touring schedule and my busy schedule. He opens me up to a world full of creativity, music, and surprises. But more importantly, he helps me understand that I can be more than just Ava, who always plays by the rules, but also someone who is willing to take risks for real emotions. A few weeks have passed since the night I first met Jake. We texted every day, short messages from him, filled with humor and subtle flirtation, and my more reserved but still warm responses. I wasn't sure if it would work out. He was a musician living out of a suitcase, and I was a girl who barely dared to leave her comfort zone. But every time his name lit up my phone screen, I felt like the world was getting a little brighter. I was sitting in my room on Friday night, deep in writing my college essay, when there was a knock on the door. "Who is this?" I asked, opening it. Jake was standing there, his guitar slung over his shoulder, a slightly sheepish smile on his face. "Hey, Ava. You like surprises, huh?" I froze. His unexpected visit had thrown me off balance, but inside I was screaming, "This is the best thing that could have happened." "I didn't expect to see you here," I finally said, my heart pounding. "I thought I'd see you before I left on tour." His voice was calm, but I caught a hint of excitement. We ended up in my backyard. He sat down on an old bench, picked up his guitar, and started playing a tune I'd never heard before. "What is this?" I asked, sitting down next to him. "A song I've been working on. It's not finished yet, but you're the first one to hear it." His voice was quiet, almost a whisper, as he began to sing. The words pierced my heart, as if they were written just for me. When he finished, I looked at him, unable to find the right words. "Do you always do this?" I finally asked. "What?" "Just show up in people's lives and change everything." He smiled. "Only if those people make me want to change myself." We stayed up late into the night, talking about everything. His dreams, my fears, how music made him feel alive. Jake opened up to me in a way no one had ever opened up to me before. He told me how hard it was to be away from home, how music could sometimes be his only refuge. "Do you think it's worth it?" I asked. "Sometimes I'm not sure," he answered honestly. "But then I meet someone like you, and I think, maybe I should do it after all." After he left, I sat on the porch for a long time, thinking about everything that had happened. Our worlds were so different, but there was some invisible connection between us. He inspired me to step out of the box, to take a step into the unknown. And I knew I was ready to take a chance. A few months passed. Jake and I kept in touch, albeit from a distance. His band went on a national tour, and I threw myself into studying and preparing for college. We tried to stay in touch, but the distance still took its toll. One night, as I was looking at his picture on the poster again, a text came through. "Jake, hey, Ava. Can you talk?" It was weird. He usually called when he had free time. Me, "Sure, something happened?" He answered right away. "Jake, I need to talk to you. In person." I couldn't sleep that night, wondering what he wanted to say. The next day, Jake came in. His face was tired, but he was still smiling when he saw me. "What's going on?" I asked, letting him in. He was silent for a long moment, as if gathering his courage. "Ava, I need to tell you something," he began. My heart sank. "I've been honest with you about everything, except one thing." He turned away. I waited, feeling a wave of worry rise in me. "I have a daughter." I froze, processing what I was hearing. "What?" My voice shook. "Her name is Maddie. She's 4 years old," he continued. "Her mother, Kelly, and I were together a few years ago. We broke up before I found out she was pregnant. I tried to keep in touch, but the music..." His voice trailed off, and he covered his face with his hands. "Are you telling me you have a child that you've never mentioned to me in all this time?" My words came out sharper than I'd intended. "I was afraid you'd leave if you found out." His voice was almost a whisper. I stood up and began pacing the room. Emotions were churning inside me: anger, disappointment, confusion. "Why did you tell me now?" "Kelly is sick. She asked me to come over and help with Maddie." "I can't say no," he looked at me pleadingly. "I want you to know the truth before things get any more complicated." I tried to find the words, but they just weren't there. "I don't know what to say, Jake. I need time to figure this out." Jake left the next day. His parting words still echoed in my head. "I'll understand if you decide you don't want this. But, Ava, I can't imagine my life without you." Now I had to choose: forgive him for what he hid and try to accept his past, or let go of the man who changed my world. A week later, I made my decision. I went to his house to talk. When I got there, the door opened and a little girl with curly blonde hair and big brown eyes appeared on the threshold. "Are you Ava?" she asked, looking at me curiously. I didn't know what to say. "Daddy says you're a ray of sunshine. He wants you to be a part of our lives," she said, smiling. Those words changed everything. Maddie instantly melted my heart. Despite all the confusion in my mind, her childlike sincerity made me smile. "Hi, Maddie," I said quietly, kneeling down to be at her level. She extended her small hand to me, as if we were old friends. "Want to see my dollhouse?" I looked at her, confused, when Jake appeared in the doorway. His eyes were intense, but there was something else in them, hope. "I'm glad you came," he said quietly. I stayed at Jake's that night, trying to figure out how everything had changed. He and I sat on the porch, wrapped in blankets, looking at the stars. "I know this is hard for you, Ava," he began, covering my hand with his. "Yes, it is. But I can't deny that I love you, Jake. I just don't know if I can handle this." His eyes filled with sadness. "I'm not asking you to decide everything now. I just want to be honest with you. You are more than just a random encounter to me. You have changed me." His words cut me to the core. I knew I loved him, but this new world was scary. In a few days, Jake was leaving for another city to finish his tour. We agreed to meet before he left. When I arrived at his house, the door was ajar. Tense voices were coming from inside. "You can't just disappear for a few months, Jake. You have a commitment to Maddie," a female voice said. I cautiously entered and saw a young woman with a sickly pale face. It was Kelly, Maddie's mother. Jake looked up and saw me. There was a mixture of guilt and relief in his eyes. "Ava, it's Kelly," he said, rubbing the back of his head nervously. Kelly turned to me. There was something strange in her eyes, a mixture of exhaustion and determination. "So you are Ava. Jake has talked about you a lot." I didn't know what to say. An awkward silence fell over the room. Kelly suddenly took a step toward me and took my hand. "I know Jake and I have a complicated history. But I see the way he looks at you. If you're ready to accept him and Maddie, I want to know that my daughter will be in good hands." That night I thought for a long time. Maddie already had a special place in my heart. And Jake. I loved him. The next morning I went to the airport to meet him before his flight. "You're doing it again, Ava," he said, smiling when he saw me. "You surprised me again." I came closer, looking him straight in the eyes. "I'm here because I love you, Jake. I don't know how to deal with this, but I'm willing to try." He grabbed my waist and pulled me closer. Our lips met, and in that moment everything fell into place. When Jake came back from tour, he invited me to meet his parents, and I introduced him to my family. We became Maddie's family, and together we learned to cope with life's challenges. But life had one more surprise in store for us. One night after dinner, Maddie ran out onto the porch screaming, "Dad! Ava! A shooting star! Make a wish!" We looked at the sky, smiling. Jake put his arm around me, leaned close to my ear and whispered, "I already made a wish. And it's right here in my hands." I looked at him, feeling the warmth and peace he brought into my life. But then my phone vibrated. An unknown message appeared on the screen. "Think it's over? The surprises are just beginning." My heart started beating faster. I couldn't figure out who could have sent this message. Jake noticed how pale I was. "Ava, is something wrong?" he asked, taking my hand. I tried to smile, so as not to arouse his suspicions. "No, it's fine. Probably some spam." But inside, I was getting restless. I couldn't ignore the feeling that this message was not a coincidence. The next day, while Jake was busy rehearsing and Maddie was playing in the garden, I heard a knock at the door. When I opened it, I saw a tall man in a sharp suit. "Miss Summers?" he asked, studying me carefully. "Yes, it's me." Who are you? He handed me a business card. It said, Marcus Flynn, private investigator. I need to talk to you. It's about Jake Harper. We sat down at the kitchen table, and Marcus began to talk. Jake hasn't told you anything about his past, has he? I was wary. What do you mean? If you want to say something, say it straight out. Marcus leaned closer. Jake was involved in some serious trouble. His name came up in a fraud case a couple of years ago. He managed to prove his innocence, but there are people who think otherwise. That's absurd, I countered, feeling a surge of anger rise up inside me. I know it's hard to accept, but I'm here to warn you. Someone is trying to use this against him. And it looks like you're in on it now. He placed a photograph on the table. It was of me, Jake, and Maddie, taken secretly a few days ago. When Jake returned, I couldn't hide my emotions. Is there something you want to tell me? I asked, handing him the photograph. He froze in place, looking at the photograph. Ava, it's not what you think, he began, but I cut him off. Then explain. Who are these people and why are they following us? Jake sighed heavily, running a hand through his hair. It's a long story, but you should know. When I first started out as a musician, I signed a contract with a company that was involved in shady business. They tried to frame me to cover up their own scams. I got away with it, but I made enemies. I didn't want to drag you into this. You thought covering it up would protect me? My eyes filled with tears. Yeah. I didn't want this to be your problem. I swear, Ava, it's all in the past. But it looks like they're back. The next day, Jake and I started getting weird calls and more texts. One of them was a picture of Maddie with the caption, "You know what to do." It wasn't just a threat. It was personal. Jake decided he couldn't wait any longer. He hired security and called the police to report the harassment. But that didn't calm my nerves. One night, when everyone was asleep, I heard the sound of glass breaking. I ran out of the bedroom and saw a shadow flit by the window. Before I could do anything, Jake was there, baseball bat in hand. Maddie, he yelled, running toward her room. I followed him. Luckily, she was safe, but her bedroom window was broken. On the windowsill was a note. You know what to give. All this only brought us closer. One night, as we sat on the couch, Jake said quietly, I know you can leave. You have every reason to leave me. But I want you to know that I love you, Ava. You are my whole life. I took his face in my hands, looking him straight in the eyes. I'm not going anywhere. We're going to get through this together. He pulled me close, and we spent the night talking about the future, about how we wanted to build our lives. A few days later, Marcus told me he had found out who was behind it. It was a former partner at the company who was trying to blackmail Jake. We arranged a meeting to end this once and for all. It didn't go as smoothly as we expected, but in the end, the truth prevailed. A few months passed. Jake, Maddie, and I became a real family. One evening, as we sat on the porch again, Jake dropped to one knee and pulled a small box out of his pocket. Ava, you've made me the happiest man in the world. Are you ready to spend the rest of your life with me? My eyes filled with tears of happiness. Yes, I whispered, throwing myself into his arms. I knew at that moment that nothing was scary anymore as long as we were together.